Thank you, everyone. Thank you to Sciences Po, to the French Debating Association for inviting us here. We're really excited to be at these debates, and thank you to all the sponsors, the judges, the chairman for making this all possible. I'm going to do two things with my speech. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clarify our position, and the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce everyone on our team and give you a pretense of the arguments that they will be making. So with that said, tonight we're very proud to propose that the British Empire still rules the world, which is kind of a funny thing for the American team to be defending. So we're going to try and convince the British that they still rule the world, which actually usually doesn't take much convincing. So I think we're going to be okay on this side of the house. So in order to clarify this motion, we think it's really important, first, to define what we mean by the modern British Empire, and secondly, to tell you guys what we think it means to rule the world today. So in 1884, as more and more territories of the British Crown were gaining autonomy, the future Prime Minister of Great Britain, Archibald Primrose, described the British Empire as a commonwealth of nations. And at present, that commonwealth does still exist. It consists of 54 countries, which include India, Canada, South Africa, Singapore, Pakistan, Malaysia, Nigeria, Australia, and of course the United Kingdom. So with the Queen serving as its head, and built on values rooted in the English tradition, the Commonwealth of Nations is clearly the contemporary heir to the mantle of the British Empire. So the next thing we want to do is we think it's very important to lay out what we think it means to rule something in the modern sense. Because the days where one nation could simply rule the world in the classical sense by exerting control over other states sheerly through military might are completely over. We think that in 2010, in a globalized world, what it means to rule the world is something very different. It's to have a very deep and pervasive influence on states and people and ideas in all different parts of the world. So given this, we believe that the British Empire best exemplifies what it means to rule the world in this contemporary sense. So on our side of the debate, we're going to show that the British Commonwealth played a crucial role in shaping the institutions of the modern world, and that it continues to directly influence not only global politics and economics, but also culture, language, development, and sustainability. Sure.
Do you make no distinction at all between ruling and influencing then?
Okay, so what we said is, in our definition, we think that in a modern globalized world, it's physically impossible for one country to exert pure military might over all others. So we think that in a new definition, that it's really important that ruling does include not only political and economic power, which we said, but it also includes culture, language, development, sustainability, etc. So we think that's a much more modern and 2010 and globalized definition of what it means to rule the world. So on our side of the debate, we're going to give you a couple of points. Meredith, our second speaker, is going to get up here and talk about the manner in which British thought and practice had a determinate role in how our world operates today. And she's going to lay out the institutions that shape the modern world. So in particular, she's going to make 4 points. The first thing that she's going to talk about is common law and the structure of law and politics, which we think that the British did come up with and which still has a pervasive influence today. She's going to talk about economics, and in particular economic development, a model that the British came up with that she's going to focus on and has been adopted in many places. She's going to talk about values in education. And last, she's going to talk about language, unsurprisingly, the English language, and how influential it's been throughout the world. So next, Max is going to get up here, and he's going to go on to discuss how the British Commonwealth continues to exert its influence through these particular channels, and as a result, continues to have a lasting influence on the world. So he's going to talk about politics, and tell you how the British Commonwealth is at the heart of policy positions that are the future of global development. He's going to talk about economics, with finance and development included. Next, Naz is going to get up here and spend a few minutes in his speech outlining how the Commonwealth countries are at the forefront of many of the biggest challenges that the world faces in the 21st century. In particular, he's going to deal with 3 different areas. He's going to deal with development, the future of these Commonwealth nations. He's going to deal with economic stability, looking at the economic crisis and examples of countries who made it through the financial crisis rather unscathed, who interestingly are part of the Commonwealth. And he's also going to talk about world peace. And in doing so, he's going to complete our constructive points. It's a great point, right? So he's going to complete our constructive points, which collectively show how the Commonwealth has shaped the institutions of the world and continues to exert immense influence over them, and is the lead when it comes to many of the major issues facing the world in the future. So finally, Nate's going to get up here and talk and summarize about all of the points that we've made throughout. So going back to our advocacy, and this is something that she asked me at the beginning that I really want to clarify because I think it's very important. We think that the spirit of globalization is a really important lens through which we can view this debate. Because we think globalization is very important. Like, globalization matters quite a bit. We all know what it is, right? It's the world becoming a smaller place. It's the ease of navigating different spheres for everyone. We think it's brought technology and it's brought prosperity to the hands of the average person. We think there are several examples of this, most of which happened outside of my lifetime, but I think are really important to mention, right? So for example, transportation. Having trains within countries, having planes able to cross between them, having all of this ability to go from one nation to the other, having borders not matter. We would talk to you about communication, Half of you probably have your cell phones easily accessible right now and are probably texting as I'm giving this speech. But we would say that like having a phone, having Skype, having the internet makes you able to be anywhere and everywhere at the same time. It gives non-state actors the ability to exert immense influence over large amounts of people. For example, it allowed, like, for example, like Twitter shut down, for example, when like the Iranian protests occurred. It showed that there were many different people that felt that there was something important that they needed to express, and it allowed a lot of people to be privy to the same information. We would say that it allows people to expect political and economic freedoms because they can see them happening in other nations. We think that's really important. We think it allows for information. We think it allows for culture coming together. We think these factors change the way the world works and the way we think about the world, at least for those of us who are old enough to remember anything else. And we think it makes it impossible for one country to dominate discourse or dominate people who are now equipped with all of the information they need to defend themselves and their principles. So in this type of world, we think a different type of leadership is necessary, and that's why we think this is important. We think it's in this spirit that we propose the model for the debate. We've given you an interesting side to defend. We think that this is a harder side of the debate to defend, but we've given you what we think is a very innovative model with many different avenues for discussion. So we're pleased to be here debating. We hope that you enjoy this. We're also really excited to see how they're going to use this tea kettle to defend their side of the house. I don't know if you see it, but it's plugged in over here. So we're really interested to see how they're going to use the tea kettle to run the debate. So I think we're going to have a great debate here for you guys. I want to thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it.